What's up, people? I'm TorridReviews, your online hotspot where you find out what's hot and what's not. And we're going to be doing something different today. Yes, it's not a theory, it's not a talks about. This time I'm actually doing a review. So, you might be surprised to hear this, but I actually did a reaction video to My Little Pony Equestria Girls Friendship Games the very day it aired on TV. And I was going to post that reaction on my YouTube channel, but I've been hesitant. Mostly because I have a rather very undignified reaction at the end. Yeah, not my proudest moment. And I've been debating whether or not to do it. But at the same time, I got really angry at the movie. So I've decided that this time around I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to show you my reaction, rather I'm going to show you what I think of the movie overall by giving you a proper review. Like, this will be the first proper review I've ever done, ever. I didn't want to hate this movie. Surprising, I know, given my track record for stating my distaste for these films, but it's the truth. This time around, I actually expected to enjoy this one to some degree. All the bits I inevitably wouldn't like, notwithstanding. Unfortunately, as you may have already gathered, that is not really the case. So before we get to my final verdict, let's go into the details. Probably pick apart the various elements of this movie: animation, characters, story, music, all that stuff. The animation is the only part of this movie that I have the least problem with. Using way more shading and giving more fluidity to the movements of the characters and everything else, the movie looks pretty great. You can definitely see improvement from the last two films as the animators proved more capable of handling legit action sequences that do have some fun and intensity to them. Not pulse pounding, mind you, but definitely getting there. However, where the movement portion of the animation is top-notch, the art style sadly still leaves a bit to be desired. While I still dislike the weird hair and unnatural skin tones of the characters, I get that it would be hard to do away with that, continuity-wise. As in characters with weird hair and weird skin tones in the next movie with no explanation, they're suddenly looking more like normal people. However, the outfits still perplex me. The animators have mastered normally proportioned feet and no longer need to give all the characters elephant feet, most prominently exhibited by the Crystal Prep students. So why do all the other characters still have knee-high boots? People can't change skin tones, I know, but they can change clothes, you know. Heck, the Humane Six actually do change shoes for one scene, so there's no reason. No excuse. For some reason, they decided to change Sunset Shimmer's outfit too, now sporting a light blue and black look with a few orange decals. I didn't understand why they did this. Of all the character designs, I actually found Shimmer's to be the most enjoyable. I thought she was the only one who made the otherwise formulaic boots and skirt look really work. Now for some reason, she looks like she's constantly ready to shoot a music video, and this new outfit is actually less appealing to me. Not necessarily bad, but not as good as her old one. I really don't understand why they changed this. To say that they changed her character, I guess, but if that's the case, then why didn't they just do that in Rainbow Rocks? And again, if they changed her outfit, why couldn't they change the main Six's main outfit? I don't know. On the positive side, though, they did elect to change Twilight's look, and they would kind of have to, seeing as how she's literally a different character here. Modeling her appearance more around her nerdiness and intellectual curiosity, making her look refreshingly less like that awful anime schoolgirl look her counterpart had before. That's still there, mind you, but it's only brief, so it's not really a problem. Unfortunately, like Luna and Celestia, the design for human Cadence is also very off-putting. Not at all appealing as her pony counterpart. However, this is just a small nitpick by comparison, but yeah, it still bugs me. The visuals for this movie are refreshingly fluid and fun, but apart from alternate Twilight, the designs really haven't improved that much in the long run. It's no secret I've been completely indifferent to the music in all of these films, having maybe only a small soft spot for maybe just Shine Like Rainbows from the last film. But in the end, I admit it mostly boils down to just indifference, not really hatred. I suppose the songs to me just aren't as much fun as the pony songs in the show. I don't think there are a lot of people who would actually disagree with me on that. However, the songs of the film are far less than stellar. Not bad, but definitely forgettable in my book, and actually kind of strange too in places. This time there are only 5 songs in the movie, the same as in the first movie, and 7 less than in Rainbow Rock. Side note, I'm reviewing the song's visuals here and not the animation because these songs were made with the mindset of making music videos. Plus, it's just easier to talk about them together rather than basically reviewing each song twice. Friendship Games is the film's opening song. It's a basic marching band piece, and I think it's meant to sound like the school's theme song, at least for the titular games. While I have repeatedly stated that I don't like it, I must praise the introductory visuals. They are the most engaging intro visuals of the series. The CHS Rally song is okay for what it is, but if my initial reaction to it was any indication...
There, now I can hear it. Hopefully you can too. My ears will never forgive you guys for this.
I'm not a fan. The song is a big band musical number sung by Rainbow Dash to inspire the CHS students. It's not bad, the visuals aren't unbelievably over the top. In fact, they seem perfectly natural for a school performance by one girl in a marching band. And credit where credit is due, I actually appreciate the homemade, simplistic quality here. But other than that, the song is nothing spectacular. What more is out there, however, gets on my nerves, and in my opinion, is the real tipping point for this film's soundtrack. The song is nothing more than your average Disney princess song about Twilight wanting more out of life and being uncomfortable with the way things are. The visuals for this song are truly boring. Just a lot of swinging shots as Twilight walks through the school to the principal's office, and they don't even attempt to make it look interesting. But what bugs me the most about the song is that we've already been through this whole musical wanting more bit with Twilight in the show, back in the season 4 finale. And quite frankly, I find that song to be 10 times better, as the song feels widely more applicable to a wider audience than this one. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know. The whole Disney princess thing is really bugging me. Acadecca, short for Academic Decathlon, is basically a montage number where both schools are competing in the academic portion of the Friendship Games. Like the CHS Rally song, I found it to be okay and the visuals believable, but still clever enough to warrant whatever small praise I can muster. But like the Rally song, I didn't find it anything that spectacular or particularly memorable. However, this time I feel the latter might be due in part to just how much it reminds me of Under Our Spell from the last film, which is also a montage about the students competing for an event. Lastly, we have Unleash the Magic, and as much as I want to like this song, I just can't. Villain songs from the show and movies have been more or less scarce and have always sounded appropriately good. This day aria being the first and thus far greatest villain song the franchise has ever produced. To be fair, the song is pretty good in its own right, but the scenario it's built on and just who sings it completely ruins it for me in an unforgivable way. But we'll get to when I discuss the characters. For some reason, the writers seem to have forgotten that in this world, people don't just start singing big musical numbers out loud unless they're intended performances or hypnotic spells from magical villains. The first song by Rainbow Dash doesn't break this rule because it's meant to be an inspiring performance, but the other numbers have no excuse. Perhaps it's due to all the songs in Rainbow Rocks. The writers just forgot the rule they'd previously established. Whatever the reason, it's still weird for me, and it takes me very much out of the whole human world angle if they tried making a hook for these leg of the franchise. People don't just randomly start song and dance numbers without getting a lot of strange looks, is what I'm saying. Something else I've noticed is that Shiver once again doesn't really have a song. Sure, she does have a bit at the climax of Acadecca, but it's too brief for me, and I find it really odd and a truly wasted opportunity that a character voiced by the singing voice actress only sings twice in the entire film series. They could have given her a duet with Altertwi during What More Is There Out There, where they sing about each other's own problems. However, for the film's score, there are a few moments of new music that actually help drive home the feeling of mystery and intensity whenever Twilight is investigating magic. I find these tracks very reminiscent of ones from Tron Legacy, and I very much appreciate that as they do sound really awesome. The music is okay in places, but it's crippled by its forgettability, and continues to not impress me and leave me utterly indifferent. The characters in these movies have been, for me, one of the film's biggest problems as a whole. each character being dumb, pointless, or an unlikable douchebag. Rainbow Rock showed promise by building on Sunset Shimmer's character and also giving us the Dazzlings and their enjoyable personalities. However, this film seems to have taken yet another step back with the characters. Sunset Shimmer in this film is trying to figure out how the magic works in the human world, but keeps hitting dead ends. She repeatedly tries contacting Pony Twilight, but for some reason her friend won't answer her. I enjoy how Shimmer takes charge and tries to get to the bottom of things in this movie, rather than feeling sorry for herself like she did in the last movie. I now would certainly love some answers to all the random magic, and it's great to see another character realistically take interest. Furthermore, since Shimmer is all alone in her intellectual pursuits, her friends unable to help her, it puts her in an understandably stressful situation on top of everything else. All that said, unfortunately, I feel that her character potential is wasted a little in this film. Her character doesn't develop all that much. She does go from not knowing a whole lot to finally figuring it all out, sure, but it's done so simply, and her arc doesn't really feel that important because it seems so shafted. Her character here is understandable, but not really all that interesting. While Sunset Shimmer is once again the protagonist, once again she's not the sole protagonist, as the alternate human Twilight Sparkle enters the scene. She wants to go to Everton School and continue her research, but is curious about the odd goings-on at CHS, so she's been investigating with magical readout devices, in many ways like Shimmer is trying to get at the bottom of things where magic is concerned. This Twilight is also shy and awkward, but for slightly different reasons. She gets the cold shoulder from everyone at Crystal Prep, save for Cadence, dean of the school, and is just generally used to not getting any attention. It becomes even more awkward for her when for some unexplained reason, everyone at CHS seems to know both her and her dog, Spike. All that said, I don't feel like Twilight in this film is really much of a character. Rather, she comes off as more of a victim of circumstance, and she's pretty much just being bounced from scene to scene by the other characters. This was one of my major problems with Pony Twi's character in the first film, and it's kind of disheartening to see it here again. Nowhere in the story does she take a stand for herself and really feel more like a character than a victim, which really doesn't help make the climax any better. When her chances to go to Everton are all threatened, all she does is comply with the will of her blackmailer. But it gets worse when you start to realize that on top of that, she's not actually all that smart, either. Oh, she's intelligent, sure. Very scientifically smart. But she lacks common sense. She has this pendant she built that can not only track, but also absorb magic from pretty much any source. And throughout the film, she accidentally sucks all the magic right out of the Humane Six. She clearly knows that it's her fault, and she doesn't want to do it. No one is forcing her to either, but for some reason, she never gets rid of the pendant or even warns any of her victims to get away before it's too late. At the film's end, she decides she wants to transfer to CHS instead. Her development in the film is practically even less existent than Shimmer's, as she doesn't even stand up for herself or learn to make any smart decisions. I don't feel she's grown in the movie, just is treated better. The Humane Five will always be a consistent problem for me in these movies. They're all more or less interchangeable, and it just feels that the full cast aren't needed. Sure, they exhibit their various character traits, but for the most part, doing so serves no purpose and just becomes repetitive, like how Pinky is always just randomly saying silly things. I know she does this in the TV show as well, but here it feels a lot more like she's just involving herself for no reason. Almost none of them do anything that's really essential to the plot, and are clearly only there to show that this is an alternate Pony universe. Honestly, it would have been more worth the time to just create one or two totally new characters. They'd serve about the same purpose as the Humane Five. You could argue that they at least represent the humanverse elements of harmony, but I'd have to call bull on that. In the film, the only one who really exhibits her element is Fluttershy, when she shows kindness to Twilight purely out of the goodness of her heart. Apart from that, none of the other characters really exhibit their elements and just pony up whenever they're feeling spirited or when they've done a good thing. Pinkie Pie does have a scene where she tries to lighten the tension between the two schools with a party and her new party cannons, but I can't quite say that this really showcases the element of laughter, her respective element. Plus, it's over far quicker than Fluttershy scene, so I'm even less sure in that regard. There's another scene where Applejack decides to help out Twilight during the athletic competition, despite the fact that they're rivals and competing against each other. Now, barring the fact that we've never seen AJ show any sort of talent or association with arrows to be this knowledgeable in either continuity, it's a decent scene and a great character moment nonetheless, but otherwise has nothing to do with the element of honesty. Again, this could just as easily be done with fewer characters who are completely original. Or at the very least with Rainbow Dash, I guess. I will say, though, that at least in this movie they aren't assholes to the Shimmer or each other as they were in the last two films in the holiday special comic, so that's a plus. The antagonist in this film, and I use that word very lightly, is CHS's rival school, Crystal Prep Academy. A prep school loaded with snooty, upper-class students and faculty. A rival school isn't a bad idea, but sadly, the sole purpose of Crystal Prep is to make CHS look better. Seriously, the students are meaner than anyone at CHS, and the principal is even more moronic than Principal Celestia and Vice Principal Luna. It's just glaringly obvious that the writers wanted us to stop criticizing the school, so they gave us a school that was even more unlikable. That said, at least Celestia and Luna aren't nearly as insufferably incompetent this time around as they have been in the last two movies. Still, I think they could have done that without introducing a new school and saying, well, at least they're not that other school. Frankly, that's just lazy. The only students of this new school that really stand out, apart from a few blatantly obvious humanizations, are what are basically the evil or anti-humane five. There's the bipolar sour sweet, perhaps meant to be Fluttershy's opposite, the ultra-competitive indigo zap, Rainbow Dash's opposite, the extremely blunt sugarcoat, who exhibits more honesty than human Applejack ever has in these movies, the rocker girl Lemon Zest, a parallel to Pinkie Pie that comes off more as a vinyl scratch in reverse, trying to figure that one out, and the straight girl Sunny Flare, who's supposedly Rarity's opposite, but lacking in traits to signify this. As a matter of fact, the only thing noteworthy about her is her hairstyle and the fact that she appears to be wearing a Pip-Boy. And no, I am not the first person to think this. Everyone else has thought it. Trust me. Also, am I the only one who thinks that Indigo Zap could have easily been replaced by a humanized lightning dust? For that matter, you probably could have replaced all the anti-humane five with humanized antagonists, and it would have made about the same amount of difference. That is to say, none. But at least the references would have been nice. Either way, for the anti-humane five as they are, none of these characters have any real characterization beyond their establishing traits. They're just set up and kind of do the same thing over again. We never get any in-depth view of them. We like seeing what makes them the way they are, or seeing the true extent of their jerkiness, aside from maybe Sour Sweet's royal dislike of Twilight. And we never really even see how specifically they are different from the Humane Five. They barely even interact with their supposed good counterparts. They're just there to, and only show a touch of development at the end when they decide to help out CHS students despite their rivalry. That, in and of itself, isn't bad, but I was so uninvested in them, frankly, I don't like them, and I don't think I'd even care whether or not they lifted a finger to help anyone. Either scenario is script-mandated and nothing more. And then we have the film's antagonist. Principal Cinch. Principal Abacus Cinch. Good grief. Sweet Celestia. Holy Primus in the Allspark. I don't think I've ever come to detest and loathe and absolutely hate a character nearly as much as I have her. Cinch is a prim and proper type who only cares about the reputation of the school and by extension herself. There's nothing even supernatural about her. She's just a normal human without magical powers who doesn't pay any mind to the consequences of her drastic actions, whatever they may be, and will do anything to make her school look better than anyone else's. And I do mean anything. Well, anything that shows that she's supposed to be evil, that is. When Twilight says that she doesn't want to compete in the friendship games, Cinch blackmails her by threatening to keep her from going to Everton, and I can only imagine she's done this to many students behind closed doors in the past. Why anyone bothers to put up with her, I have no idea, because there is nothing redeemable about her. I can't even find her stereotypicalness mildly amusing because it's just so awful. There's this one point in the film where she exploits Twilight again, knowing that doing so might cause a lot of people to get killed, and she doesn't care! Of all the villains in the franchise to get a villain song, why was she one of them? Every scene she was in, I just hated her and wanted someone to strangle her. A humanized King Sombra would have made a much better villain. Come on, people, we're all thinking it. Actually, that would have worked out even better, because Pony Twilight would have been unable to warn Shimmer about Sombra, as she wasn't taking any calls, leaving Shimmer completely unprepared for Sombra's human counterpart. But back to Cinch. Apathetic, self-centered, cliched, weak, slimy, detestable, stupid, as all buck, stuck up, and by far the worst animated character in all history. Congratulations, Human Flesh Sentry, you've been knocked off the #1 spot! Actually, speaking of, Flash is once again in this film, no surprise, and is about as useless as ever in terms of the plot. Also no surprise. There's never been any point to his character, and in this film there is especially no point. Oh, he's not bad, truth be told. There's just no reason for him to be here. I actually don't really hate him anymore. I just don't care. He's just kind of there, and I don't care. He's just wasting screen time. Moving on. However, I will say that Human Derpy is at her best and fullest here, for what little screen time she's allowed, as she is the only one who offers comfort to Flash when Alter Twi basically turns him down without even knowing it. Take a moment to think about that. The fandom's most beloved character, without second thought, offers moral support to the fandom's most despised character. Love and toleration at its finest, my friends. If this isn't proof that Derpy is best pony, then I do not know what is. This film is also the debut of humanized Cadence in Shining Armor, and while Cadence's design might be horrendously off, human Cadence thankfully is not depicted with the same ineptitude as Celestia and Luna were in the first two films, and is shown to be very much like her pony counterpart as she shows concern for Twilight's well-being. Shining Armor, on the other hand, only has one scene and one line, and is incredibly brief. All he does is stand there and say like one line or something. And with what we're given, this Shining is boring and not very likable. He's practically the human vs. Flash Sentry, if I must be honest. Did the writers only put him in this movie so I would stop complaining that he wasn't in these movies? If that's the case, then congratulations, writers. I don't want him in here anymore. You won this round. Applause. Applause you really don't deserve. Another character I initially liked but later found to be pointless was Spike the dog. As a cute little pet for Twilight, he works, but for whatever reason, they had to make him talk. Nothing is ever done with this after it happens, well, maybe one thing, and Spike overall contributes almost nothing to this movie, aside from reminding Twilight of her humanity at the climax. The characters in this film are either pointless, stupid, or flat-out completely unlikable, barring the very few of them who really don't serve any purpose. I found that I didn't or couldn't care about what happened to any of them. When I first heard about the premise for this movie, I was miffed they were actually stooping so low as to rival films like The Hunger Games and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. But now I realize those were entirely irrational complaints when we consider what we ultimately got. The film opens with what at first seems like a very tense scene, but then it turns out to be a false alarm that pretty much goes nowhere. I should have known that that would reflect the rest of the film for me. The film's premise is that Canterlot High is about to compete against Crystal Prep in the titular Friendship Games, a 3-part school competition. Meanwhile, Sunset Shimmer attempts to understand how magic now works in the human world, and the alternate Twilight Sparkle is more or less trying to do the same thing, using a device she built to try and find the source. While I roll my eyes at the writers unable to write any of these films without putting Twilight in them, I still think the dynamic between her and Shimmer could work if done properly, as Shimmy introduces Alter Twi to the setting and the two work together from there. I sort of like the setup dynamic between her and Shimmer, how Shimmer knows all about equestrian magic and I knows all about human science. Sadly, this never really comes into play, and the characters don't really interact beyond Shimmer constantly suspecting Twi of foul play up until the end, and alternate Twilight just accidentally having to come across them. Meanwhile, I think the titular games themselves are pretty much shafted in the second half, and I don't quite understand this. While they do play an essential part leading up to the climax, in Rainbow Rock's last major competition was what the entire story was built around and hinged on. With the games themselves being the film's title, you'd think there'd be a larger emphasis on them. On the other hand, this also makes me question two things. How does CHS afford a motocross course with customized dirt bikes? And why do they put up with Crystal Prep every 4 years if they always beat them and act like total assholes about it? Furthermore, Sunset Shimmer has been here, I gather, at least 8 to 10 years. How has she never heard of these games? For that matter, in the first film, she's stated to be the captain of every sports team. Again, how has she never known about the friendship games? You'd think she'd at least have won CHS the games beforehand. Heck, for that matter, that might actually explain how she got to be so popular. Ugh, wasted opportunity. These wouldn't stand out as glaring problems to me if the titular game had had more importance in the movie, honestly. However, they do seem to have great importance to apparently everyone but the writers. Even when weird magical things start happening, nobody seems to care or even notice. Even when a giant man-eating plant shows up and tries to kill some of the motocross racers. The whole concept of school pride being more important than people possibly being killed by magical anomalies just boggles the mind so much that it really takes me out of the film and what could have been a really intense scene. Or multiple intense scenes, honestly. For that matter, focus in general seems to be another major issue that this film has. Is the film about Sunset Shimmer? Is it about Twilight? Is it about the friendship games? The film can't seem to decide what it should focus on and just kind of loses focus of all three near the end. As I've said, Shimmer doesn't really have any development and mostly goes about not having a handle on things. But Twilight has it even worse off. Again, she comes off as more of a victim of circumstance than a full-fledged character, and I really wish we'd gotten to go a little more in-depth with her character, at least see her struggle on a much closer level, if not have her at least stand up for herself at least once. Otherwise, she just comes across as kind of a moron. There is a good scene I mentioned where Fluttershy and Twilight simply sit down and talk. This is definitely my favorite scene in the movie. It's not rushed or convoluted, it's just Fluttershy showing Twilight kindness and Twilight happy that someone isn't giving her the cold shoulder. Granted, the scene does take a turn for the odd when Twi's pendant starts sapping Flutter's own magic, and for some reason opens portals, and then Spike gets caught in the magical crossbeam and gains the ability to talk from it. But this isn't nearly as out of left field as a lot of the other stuff in this movie. And heck, I even like how they excuse Spike's forced need to have a speaking role. That is how good this scene is. That said, let's talk about another issue with these movies. This movie especially. The magic. WTF. Do the writers have any idea at all what this magic is supposed to be? First it turns you into a she-demon. Then it turns you into pony-esque angelic beings that for some reason have wings but don't have horns. Then it can generate a rainbow of friendship that can completely reverse the she-demon form and compel the said former she-demon to become good and repent for her sins. Then it's triggered when you play musical instruments. Then it can create a giant alicorn made up of energy. Then it can create magical constructs of your pony counterparts' cutie marks. Then when you sap it out of a person, it creates portals to other dimensions. Then it can make dogs talk. Then it turns you into an evil winged nightmare moon version of yourself in a ridiculous outfit which suddenly for no reason has a horn. Then it turns you into an angelic winged version of yourself in a ridiculous outfit which for suddenly no reason has a horn. Make up your minds! Consistency! That's all I ask by this point! Just have some rules you actually follow! Ugh. Considering that magic is one of the film's driving plot points, I feel that there should have been more careful consideration when handling it. But to lift one final annoyance off my chest, Sunset Shimmer says that she's finally figured out how magic in the humanverse works, at least for the Humane 5. That it works whenever they're displaying the best parts of themselves. Oh yes, I'm sure Rainbow Dash was displaying her best, purest, good-natured qualities when she was fueling her excessive ego on stage in the first film. And then we come to the ending. In the climax, Principal Cinch has learned about the magic and, moronic meathead that she is, believes CHS is using it to cheat and wants Twilight to use her own collected magic so that her school will have the upper hand. However, when Twilight gives in and tries to use it, the magic backfires and turns her into a deranged Midnight Sparkle, a Nightmare Moon-esque version of Twilight with intentions to destroy the barriers between worlds so that she may enter Equestria and learn about magic. At least from what I gather. The dialogue is once again a bit confusing. Of all the convoluted climaxes and twists I have ever seen, this is by far the largest, the biggest, and the worst that I have ever seen. Nowhere in the film prior did Twilight exhibit any signs of ill intent towards anyone, not even an unfriendly indifference. You can't even argue that the magic she had was corrupted and therefore corrupted her, because Sunset Shimmer almost immediately uses the exact same magic to do almost the exact same thing. Furthermore, why do they have unicorn horns now, and no one in the movies prior grew a magical horn? And am I the only one on the planet who thinks Sunset Shimmer's Saiyan outfit looks totally stupid? One more thing. Didn't Twilight already steal all the magic from Humane 5? How are they suddenly giving more magic to Shimmer so she can pony up herself? Again, consistency, please. Okay, now to be fair, analyst Mad Munchkin made a good point when she explained how she viewed the climax. How Shimmer became an evil she-demon because of her superiority complex shaping and corrupting the magic. While here, it was Twilight's inferiority complex that caused her to become what she did. Her now flowing with so much power that she could do whatever she wished without opposition, and so she took control of it. However, while I do think that's a very good point, and props to Mad Munchkin for figuring all that out, I also feel that it's heavily bogged down by the lack of focus on Twilight, because I never really felt connected to her in any way, and honestly thought of her as kind of stupid. I never really got to know her, and therefore it seemed as though her motivations just changed completely for no reason. Not helping is the incredibly rushed pacing. Not only is Twilight forced into the scenario at practically the last minute, but when it happens it's incredibly rushed, and we don't even see her take a second look at herself and realize what power she now possesses when she becomes Midnight Sparkle. Even shocked at having completely physically changed. She just is suddenly evil without any explanation or time for us to figure out why. Furthermore, while I do acknowledge Shimmer's involvement in the climax helps to bring her character full circle in the trilogy, something about this just doesn't sit right with me. The ending seems to say that she's developed so far that she can now do no wrong, and while she's gone through the highs and lows to get to this point, I feel that they're setting her up too high. Perhaps this is just out of personal taste, but I have a better time appreciating heroes who succeed without total success. Heroes that don't achieve completely happy or satisfactory endings. I like these heroes because I believe their failures and imperfections shape them, drive them to be better. Not only that, but I feel that a less spectacular victory makes them more relatable, which returns me to my problems here. With Shimmer depicted as a can-do-no-wrong-anymore character, she suddenly loses all that relatability and essentially turns the idea of friendship into a deus ex machina. Shimmer says to Twilight, "I've been where you are," but that's a complete load of bull. When Shimmer first became an evil she-demon, she had every prior intention of gaining that magic and abusing it. Twilight, on the other hand, had no intention of doing any of this and only did so when her arm was basically twisted behind her back. I don't buy this scene at all. It comes across as forced, convoluted, nonsensical, and completely backtracks any progress all these films have made. Also, Shimmer speaks about the elements of harmony and how they're true magic or whatever, but I just can't believe any of what she's saying because nowhere in this film are the elements of harmony individually named. Seriously, because the writers never saw fit to actually make the individual virtues of the elements in any way important prior to this moment. They are never individually named. The characters barely exhibit these virtues in any significant way. They're treated as though loyalty, honesty, generosity, laughter, and kindness don't really matter. Guys, you can't try pulling this on me because, once again, there's no setup. Finally, the friendship games ends with basically everyone being declared a winner, seeing as how the whole thing was sort of tossed aside by Midnight Sparkle. Do I even need to say how lazy and cliched a writing tactic that is? I also really hate how it completely subverts the film's entire premise and theme. Yeah, friendship games, because that's really, really important. Not. Principal Cinch, meanwhile, still only cares about her school winning and nothing more. She knowingly put the lives of everyone at risk, CHS and Crystal Prep alike, and guess what? You're not gonna believe this, if you haven't seen the film already. She gets away with it!
No, 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 no!
The first major My Little Pony villain to not in any way get her comeuppance, and it has to be her. She blackmailed her student and put her own students in danger for no other reason than personal gain. She's not a magical villain with some kind of personal history or stake by any means. There is nothing redeemable about her character. She is entirely unlikable. She does not, should not, get a pass! And so finally, Twilight decides she doesn't want to go to Everton, but to transfer to CHS instead because everyone there is so nice to her. That's all well and good, but by this point I just couldn't care any less than I ever will. Stupid movie. I'm not even going to mention the final scene in the movie because it's entirely pointless and adds nothing to the movie. It's not even that funny. I have nothing to add. It's just nothing. In conclusion, My Little Pony Equestria Girls Friendship Games is a bad movie. It is an awful movie. It is a stupid movie! From what the teaser showed me, I was actually hoping they would change things up. Do something new for the ending and actually deliver a mature, more graspable movie. However, to put it as lightly as I can, the film just let me down. I set my expectations too high. I don't really know what No, I know what I was expecting. You know what? I was a fool for thinking that the writers could actually do something with these movies. Movies always follow a pattern, for good or for bad, and this movie stuck to that for bad. The music is okay, but otherwise forgettable, and the animation is definitely improved, barring some bad design choices. Sadly, the characters are wasted, stupid, or insufferable, and the plot is nothing more than padding and a rushed climax that makes no sense, and the villain gets away with everything without getting the justice she so richly deserves. It has some good ideas and some genuinely good scenes, and they really do try to make them work, but in the end, none of it comes together in a way that makes a whole lot of sense, and I feel completely ripped off. And again, I did set my expectations too high. I think watching this film was the first time I've ever screamed in rage at both a movie and a computer screen. This movie had so much potential, and they just went and wasted it all. Do I have any faith in the fourth film or the Legends of Everfree spin-off series? No. No, I do not. And if you know what's best for you, you'll spare yourself the pain and disappointment and avoid those too. But most of all, avoid friendship games. Here's hoping the 2017 Pony movie is nothing like this. This is Torrid Prime 217, signing out, reminding you to please, Brony responsibly.
Ooh, this is my jam! There is a place where the grass is what's for dinner. Soup, every pony! Charmed, fun and wild. Yeehaw! There must be something in the water.
What?
Spin rainbow juice, talking elements of harmony. Yeah! Our bronies
Hey there!
hang out too.
Come on, bronies.
'Cause they know we're awesome fillies.
Come on, every pony.
You could travel the world, but no one can groove like the girls with the hooves. Once you party with ponies,
Party with
you'll
the
be seeing rainbows. Ooh, ooh. Equestria girls, we're kind of magical. Boots on hooves, bikinis on top. Furry coats so cute, will blow your mind. Equestria girls, we're pony fabulous.
Yeah.
Fast, fine, fierce, we trot till we drop. Cutie marks
Cutie
represent.
marks.
Now put your hooves up.
Put your moves in the air. Break it down, DJ Cone 3. These are the ponies I love the most. I wish you could all be Equestria girls.